Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Skull,
I'm Zombie Cat.
and this is the Horror Den. Well,
Today we had the misfortune of watching Grave Encounters 2.
and before we get into it, I went into this hoping to give it the benefit of a doubt, and me and Zombie Cat told me that this movie was not good, but I was hopeful, as every horror movie fan should be.
Even we're about to roast this movie to oblivion, still watch it for yourself because there are plenty of horror movies that people despise that I love. So
Yeah, I mean, same here, and we will get into those controversial choices about good horror movies later on, I'm sure. What did you think?
I hate this movie. I really hate this movie. It's hard to find any positives about it. All the way from the story to the characters. Let's start with a synopsis. So, basically, this movie tries to be super meta. The first movie, Grave Encounters, is a movie inside of Grave Encounters 2. And a kid that we've already forgot his name. I don't really care.
His name is Alex.
I don't really care to remember, but
I wrote down the notes of this movie.
he starts thinking that Grave Encounters could be real. At the beginning, he finished watching the movie and he rates it 1 skull, which is kind of funny. And then he just gets an email from Death Awaits, which of course is the big spray painted text on the door in the first movie, and it's like, oh, who could it be from? And then it just spirals into him trying to figure out if the movie's real or not, and then they get more than they can bargain for towards the end. It's just
As with most of our videos, if you don't want spoilers, go ahead and stop the video now and go watch this movie. It's an hour and 45 minutes, and boy, it's a slog. The last 30 minutes are bad. You can find Grave Encounters 2, same way you can find Grave Encounters, over on Prime. You can watch it for free through Freevee.
Find a DVD for
really,
really cheap on eBay or something. I'm talking 50 cents to $1.
So if you don't want this movie spoiled for you, just go ahead and go watch the movie, and then come back, and then maybe you can suffer with us.
Or
disagree. Feel free.
Whatever.
Feel free to disagree with us in the comments down below. So as you were saying, God,
it's bad. It's really.
the first thing I have written down is the Cringe Party. This whole movie starts with this frat party going on, and with a bunch of annoying college-age teenagers that are in film school, and it's really cringy. This movie did not age well, especially that section of the movie. This movie was released in 2012. No, the first one was released in 2011. And this was directed by John Poliquin and written by the Vicious Brothers, who were a part of the first one. Anyway, this really annoying character, Trevor, he goes up to try to get his roommate, Alex, to come down to the party. Alex is seen in the very first part as this YouTube reviewer, haha, like us.
And it's also instantly you see this dude and you're like, we're stuck with this guy for the whole movie. Trevor and the main character. It's just you see him and you're immediately like, oh no.
Trevor was arguably my least favorite part of this entire movie. Going forward in the film, it's just, the mysterious email that you talked about from Death Awaits, and then it's revealed that, there might be some substance to Grave Encounters, and the film student Alex decides to make a horror movie, so it's a horror movie within a horror movie within a horror movie. It's weird. They find out that the movie is, the film was real. And then they decide to go talk to one of the main characters from the first one's mom, who all the cast from the first one was revealed to be a bunch of actors that it turned real. It's convoluted as hell. But they go talk to Sean's mom, which Sean in the first one was Lance Preston, the I'm Zach Bagans guy from the first one. And his mom basically says that he's still alive and all this other stuff. So we're thinking, oh, maybe it was just a hoax. It takes 33 to 35 minutes in this movie to get to the hospital.
36 minutes.
To get to the hospital of the first movie. So the action doesn't even start until 30, 40 minutes in.
And I don't think it's unfair to say, I think literally the first 30 minutes is nothing but kids drinking, cringe jokes, weed. Like, it's just so unfunny. Like, they're trying to be like, well, hello, fellow kids. Kind of, and it's just... It's so boring. Oh my god. And I want to go ahead and mention the first movie, which we both agreed is a pretty solid movie.
Yeah.
Definitely give the first one a watch. It's a fun time. This movie had a $1.4 million budget compared to the first movie with, what did I say, 120 or 140,000?
It was 120,000.
So they literally, I don't know what happened. I don't understand. Like, you can see the production quality later on with some like ghosts and like effects done that are cool, but the main character, he wants to be, it's such an insult because he's like, I'm gonna be the new big deal. I'm gonna be the best director of all time. And it's like, man.
And the horror movie that you watch him create, number one, the cinematography for those shots, great. It reminds me very much of James Wan, Saw-esque. I even said that when we were watching the movie. It was a parody of Saw. And the acting was just so bad. And then it's revealed that he's the director. And it's like, oh, so you're the visionary here. And you just spent all this drunk talking about how you're going to be the next, like, icon in the industry, and it was just funny.
This dude ain't no James Wan or Ari Aster.
So they go and interview Lance's mom. Turns out that she has severe dementia, and Sean has been missing since Grave Encounters was filmed, and the whole rest of the crew is also still missing. So while Alex is keeping his YouTube channel up to date about this mystery that he's uncovering, he the camera malfunctions and his face twists like in all the other ghosts and the stuff, and his printer just starts working on its own, and it prints off a call sheet to, hang on, let me find his name, Hartfield Entertainment Industries.
Oh, I thought you were...
which produced the first movie apparently, and Jerry, who actually he makes an appearance in the first one very shortly, like saying that this was all like raw uncut footage, just cut for time. And so Alex decides to fly to LA to go confront him.
Becoming obsessed with this movie for really no reason besides the fact he got a YouTube comment from Death Awaits, and he spirals into this nonsensical journey to figure out if it's true. He goes to this movie studio and meets, what was his name?
Jerry. Jerry with a G.
Okay. He meets Jerry and confronts him, and he's like, oh, get this kid out of here. He kicks him out of the studio just for the protagonist to go out to the car, and then Jerry comes up to his car and he's like, meet me tomorrow and we'll discuss this. And he
bring no cameras.
Yeah, he wears like a spy cam, and
really bad quality spy cam.
Yeah, and even for like 2011, pretty awful. And then Jerry spills the beans, being like, oh, it was all real, and so, and just, and for some reason, that makes Death Awaits, the person who's been contacting the main character, wants to meet him at this asylum that the first movie was filmed in, and he already has confirmation that it was real, which he somehow dug up all of this just off the internet. Like, he's attacking Jerry and stuff, being just from basic knowledge he found on the internet, and talking to Lance's dementia riddled mom, and he's literally just
we'll go into more specific things that we as the movie went on, we'll go back, but we're just giving you the brief overview of like the breakdown of the story, and we're talking about it as it goes on. So after he meets with Jerry, you know, he reveals that the crew was actually dead and that all of them signed NDAs before, you know, going on the film, and that's why nobody knows about it. Jerry's a total douche. They decided to go to the hospital, which was under a different name, and it's all the way in Canada. So these group of, you know, college kids, film students, they get in their car and they go all the way to Canada. They get stopped by this, you know, dickhead security guard, and then they come back that night after Death Awaits tells them to meet them at the west end of the hospital in a room, and they'll meet at 3 a.m. So they break in, they go down there, they play with a Ouija board. The Ouija board starts talking on its own, revealing that Death Awaits is the spirit force that is the hospital.
The movie at this point goes from 0 to 100, should I say. Like, they get there and they're showing off all their equipment and stuff. He also convinced all of his friends, and he was like, oh, this is the movie I'm gonna make now, by the way. That's also kind of an inspiration to why they went to the hospital. But just, they get there, they show off all this equipment. His girlfriend is showing off like, oh, we have these glow sticks, and she drops one and it's never even brought back up again. No. And
it's a creative idea, never utilized.
Yeah, it would have been. That's what this movie feels like to me. It's so many just wasted ideas. I like the idea of like a meta kind of like play on Grave Encounters, but it was just executed so horribly, so bad.
So while they're doing their filming process, there's this moment where they hear noises. They're being chased by a ghost force. It starts pushing against the door. It's revealed to be the security guard from earlier, and you know, he's telling them to get out. Alex is saying, I'm not leaving without my cameras because it's a bunch of money for my film school, which thank God he said that, because the whole time I was wondering how the hell did they get all this equipment together.
Said it was like $50,000 worth of equipment.
And you know, they hear a noise from upstairs, and you know, the security guard's like, who'd you come with? And they were like, nobody. So he goes to investigate. A bunch of gunshots. The security guard's gone. Just very similar to the happenings in the first one. So they decide to get their stuff and leave, which I don't remember this guy's name, but there was...
we don't care.
Yeah, there was a camera guy with them, and you know, the window from the first movie that opened periodically, I believe his name was Max in the first one.
Before, real quick to cut you off, it's like, once again going back to like, this movie goes from 0 to 100. It's literally 36 minutes of frat boys smoking weed, getting drunk, looking at hot chicks, blah blah blah, the cliche junk we're so numb to at this point. But once they get to the asylum, unlike the first movie that had this eerie kind of build up to like things slowly happening overnight, this movie jumps straight into it. Like, it's insanity as soon as I'd say the cop goes upstairs and the gunshots go off. It's like everything is just hectic from that point on. Like,
while they're trying to collect this, the camera dude gets pushed out the window by a force that we can't see, and he dies. So he's dead.
Like that.
Yeah, literally. The group's freaking out. They find the footage, and then, you know, they're trying to get out of the hospital. Same thing as the first one. They come upon walls blocking the exit where the exits used to be. And then there's this girl named Tess, who is like supposedly like the badass girl of the group. She gets sealed away in one of these walls and can't find her way out, and she gets brutally murdered by a ghost force that we can't see. Pretty quickly. Like, the way I'm describing this is exactly how quick everything happens.
It's so rushed.
So the group's freaking out. They finally get out of the asylum. They find an exit, and they drive back to their hotel. They're freaking out. They're going to leave to go back home. They go down the elevator. There's this really cool shot where the maid has like turned around and is like staring at them going down the elevator. It's kind of creepy. And then the elevator opens, and boom, they're in the basement of the asylum. They never left.
That is a fun scene. I will give it that. Like, it's not necessarily earned, but that is a fun like transition from them being in the hotel and the elevator door opening just for it going to like this colorful elevator to being in the dark tunnel. That's fun.
Yeah. It's very 1408 of them, which, we will cover that movie at some point. We will reference it a lot.
That's another thing to where it's like the budget kind of shines. Like we were talking about some of the ghosts and stuff you see in this movie. Like there's definitely an upgrade.
Oh, yeah. That's undeniable.
Which... it kind of looks worse at times too. I don't know why, but like I don't know if it's because the camera quality is higher.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
But they're back in the hospital. They're trying to find their way out, and then boom, a mysterious character appears out of nowhere. Turns out that it's Lance from the first movie.
The best part of this whole movie.
Best character in the whole movie. And we don't even know if that's because we latched onto him because he's a first movie character or whatever, but he was arguably the best character.
I like him in the first movie. I think Lance is he's like douchey, but he's not annoyingly douchey like these characters.
Anyway, he's batshit crazy now.
Yeah, he's been there for
9 years.
Yeah, 9 years.
And so he's like become this hermit that's like trying to figure a way out. He's found this red door and he's obsessed with it. A door that leads to nowhere.
Was never mentioned in the first movie. Just out of nowhere, there's this red door. Okay.
He has mapped the entire asylum and also mapped how it changes.
That's fun.
That's a cool little touch that I enjoyed. So he shows them the door that leads to nowhere that's all bolted up. They are like, we have bolt cutters, but they're lost in this hallway. So they go on this whole thing where they find the bolt cutters, they go to rest, then they go open the door.
I do want to mention like one positive. There's another fun scene where Lance, once again, like complete crazy at this point. He's a hermit and he knows how the hospital works. He comes to like a closet door and he opens it and they're like, dude, there's nothing there. He closes it and opens it again. It's still just a closet, but then he does it a third time and it completely opens up into a hallway. That was fun.
Yeah, that was a good little touch too, about especially how he's mapped it out. He claims to, at least. And from there, they have the bolt cutters now, so they're trying to find their way back to the door. Meanwhile, Trevor, the character I hate the most out of this whole movie, is in a bathroom recording his will and testament for his family. We hear some weird noises. He comes out, he turns around, and there's Lance with a lead pipe. And Lance kills him and strangles him to death. Probably the best kill in the movie. And he's saying that he basically says that the ghost force told him to do it and that he's sorry. And then he disappears. And so now we have Alex and his girlfriend Jen. His girlfriend Jen left. And so they're trying to find their way out. And then slowly it's revealed that Lance knows from the Force that only one of them is getting out. And so he plans to kill the other two so he can make his exit.
We forgot to mention the ghost camera.
Oh my God. I was going to get into that when we got into more specifics.
But it happened earlier. This is before Trevor's death, remember? Yeah. So they're all taking a rest before they go approach the big red door with the bolt cutters. And they're all sleeping, and it's so bad. It looks like a string is pulling up a camera. It's like filming them while they're sleeping. And you can tell it's supposed to be this like, oh God, like they're being filmed in their sleep, but it looks so bad. Like it literally looks like it's held up by like fishing wire.
Wasn't that same trick pulled in Blair Witch? Like where they're like recorded being sleeping and no one recorded them.
I don't remember. It's been a minute since I've watched the original.
Well, anyway, I feel like there are movies that have done this. No, I think it's like Sinister. Maybe.
I know in VHS, remember there's the tape where there's an intruder and it's recording both of them.
I just feel like there's, what I'm trying to say is that there's other movies that have accomplished this scare better.
Way better.
And this just is so much cheesier because you see the camera rise and it just looks so bad. Anyway, so that happens.
Yeah, I had to mention that.
No, you're good. And anyway, so this couple finds their way to this door that leads to nowhere, which really does lead to nowhere right now, and that's how we find out that only one of them is getting out. And they have to finish the film. Finish the film.
Also, you can't forget Lance, after killing Trevor, he went to the door and he cut it open and he opened it. and it led to nothing. It was literally, it's like a door just standing in the middle of a room, and he walks through it and he's like, whoa, and then it's like nothing's there, and then that's when he finds out that he has to kill the rest. Only one can make it out, and the ghost is wanting them to finish the film, which wasn't even a thing in the first movie.
Apparently the Ghost Force wants them to finish the film so that they can go tell everybody else, so more people will come to the hospital and become its victims.
That's so stupid.
Anyway, so there's a whole fight sequence that breaks out between Sean and Alex and Jen. We're cheering at this point in the movie. We're just sitting there cheering for Lance to win, and Jen comes up.
In my opinion, if anybody deserved to get out of that place, it was Lance. This dude's been there for 9 years. Eating rats.
Yeah, he ate more rats in this movie.
Drinking toilet water.
Yeah, drinking chunky toilet water. So Jen comes up while he has Alex down on the ground dead to rights. Jen comes up, hits him over the head with the lead pipe from earlier, and then it just goes off the rails. An Evil Dead 2 style portal opens up on a wall.
Once again, nothing like that happened in the first movie.
And Evil Dead did it better. Sorry. And then Lance gets pulled through and the portal seals itself. And at this point, Alex has lost his mind, saying that he's going to finish the film, and then how his girlfriend always wanted her death scene to be good, and then he brutally kills her by bludgeoning her over the head with a camera.
I also need to mention this dude looks like Bully Maguire. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's when Spider-Man has the symbiote in Spider-Man 3, and he gets the dark hair, and that's exactly who I see looking at this main character the whole time. Like,
I didn't even piece that
to
together.
a T. You'll have to put in a picture of.
Oh my god, just the.
Yeah, like, oh my god, like he looks just like that. But Bully Maguire is a way better character than this dude. I've already forgot his name, and you just said it like
Alex. I only know because I wrote it down. So Alex kills Jen brutally. That's pretty good practical effect.
It was
death.
okay. Yeah,
I'll give him that.
Fair. That was a good kill.
And then he opens the door, and it leads to a hallway where you can see like this illuminated light, and he walks through it, and he's in this like, it looks like almost like a desert field, and he turns around and you see the other end of the doorway in this terrible CGI fashion.
Oh yeah,
the door crumbles.
It looks like some kind of like 90s like N64 game or PS2 game where like, I don't know, that kind of was what it looked like to me, like the 3D effects.
And then it cuts to this police cam footage where our protagonist Alex is walking down a highway, and these cops pull him over, and he has a large duffel bag full of cameras because he's trying to finish the film, and they basically like lock him up.
All this dude is doing, okay, so all this guy is doing, yeah, it's weird. Like, I would understand why the police would show up in this situation.
But he was covered in blood.
I didn't.
Yeah, it's on his face when he's pinned.
Well.
I mean, D-Mac, you can put a picture in where he's like pinned over the hood of the car, and you just see like blood splattered across his face.
Well, then that makes more sense.
I think that's why they pulled guns on him.
Okay, because, yeah, I didn't see that, so I thought they were literally just like some dudes walking in the middle of the road, and all he does is turn around, and they just start tackling him. I'm like, chill out, what did he do? It's like, you won't just be like, are you drunk or something?
Yeah.
Like, get on the car!
But they lock him up, and then he's like, you can't take my cameras, I need that footage. And then it cuts to basically like a year later in a similar scene to the first movie at the very beginning. We see Jerry Hartman, or Hartfield, not Hartman, I don't know where that came from, Hartfield, and Alex sitting in front of like pictures and videos of the movie, and it's basically like, Alex came to me and said that he recorded Grave Encounters 2, and I made this mistake with the first one, but everything you've seen here is fake. And then it cuts to Alex, and it just says, he just looks at the camera and says, don't go looking for the building.
Of course, it's bleeped out, but I'm assuming for the actual audience in the movie's universe, it wasn't. So he kind of gives the camera a look of, go look for it, but
he's saying, don't go looking for it, there's nothing there. And then credits roll. Now, that may sound like we're giving this plot, the short end of the stick, but that's literally how it plays out play by play.
We missed maybe like some ghost moments. Like there's two fun ghosts. There's the one with the big jaw who busts through the window.
Yeah, that you've seen on every
It's on the poster of the movie.
And the posters, like, there's no getting around that. There was the ghost girl sequence where it's chasing her. That's fun.
And the little vent, that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Cracked around. CG's kind of bad, but...
But getting into more specific notes that I have, I already said that this movie didn't age well. From the very beginning, I wrote down that these are characters you already want dead. Like you
so bad. And it's not, I was saying that the worst Friday the 13th movies have better characters than this, and that's like...
That's saying something.
Yeah. We're huge Friday the 13th fans, obviously, but it's like...
There's a glowing Jason head behind us. Yeah. Like, what can we say?
But with those movies, it's like, we're here to watch Jason do his thing. But with this movie, it's trying to make you, like, somewhat attached to these characters. Like, I feel like right before Trevor dies, you were saying he was filming his will, essentially. And it's supposed to be this sad moment, but you're just like, I don't care.
See, if that was him throughout the whole movie, maybe not like a mess on the ground, but if he like had that much acting skills throughout the whole movie and like character, like I would have liked him. But he just didn't.
I also don't know if I want to blame this on the actors.
No.
There's some performances in this movie though where I'm like, that's bad. The girlfriend
in some
really
scenes
bad.
Now I will say, this is what I did before this, so it could come down to direction, and we'd never know.
Yeah, that's the issue. A lot of times, it's like sometimes you got to work with what you're given, and
obviously
there's nothing you can do about it. It's like you took the role, and it's like you have to do this. So,
and it's obvious that the script was a giant steaming hot pile of garbage,
which is crazy to me because, like we mentioned earlier, the first one was $120,000, and they got a $1.4 million budget for this movie, and it grossed, I believe I said, $8 million. So it's surprising we didn't see a Grave Encounters 3. So just it's unbelievable that they squandered that money this bad.
I also have a really funny note written down where it's like, we realized it at this moment because of what was happening on screen. So the movie just explained to itself that this movie didn't need to be made. And D-Mac pointed this out to us, and I thought that was hilarious. I don't even remember what it said on screen, but it was just like this moment where the movie kind of acknowledges itself in a way where it's like, this movie didn't even really need to be made. Like, there was no point to this at all.
It's really money.
That's
it. But
which I'm surprised that there's not a Grave Encounters 3, considering what you found out that this movie made.
It made so much money, and
the fart on the thermal cam.
Oh my god.
There's a scene where they're talking about this thermal camera, and it pans over to Trevor, and there's this like
once again useless equipment, by the way, that never gets used. Besides one other scene that's not even a ghost,
and you see this like fog around him, and everybody starts freaking out, and then somebody's like, "Oh my God, Trevor, did you fart?" And he's like, and then he's like, "Oh, you can see that on camera," and then he bends over and he farts, and you just see this fart
It's like
cloud.
This super bad CG fart cloud coming out of his ass. It's so stupid.
So,
oh my God.
One thing I did find interesting in this story was during our Grave Encounters 1 review, we did try to figure out what was the trigger effect. This movie completely disproves the door and the window being the trigger effect, which I found interesting. Which
also, I feel like this movie, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like this movie, like it retcons so much of the first movie and tries to introduce so much new stuff that like, because we were talking about how the security guard and those dudes who were there for 2 weeks, like why didn't they get haunted? But in this movie, just a random cop comes in and he's the first victim of the movie. It's just...
Which we didn't even mention the fact that the cop has this really funny death where you find him strapped on a table later in an electroshock therapy, and he gets shocked to death, and he burns... He literally gets consumed by flames. It's absolutely ridiculous.
And their reaction to it is so bland. They're just like, why did we come here? It's like... You knew this was gonna happen. This dude, all he did was look up some stuff on Google and just found some basic, like, oh, these actors weren't in a single movie after this movie.
They literally tried to turn Grave Encounters in this movie, they turned Grave Encounters 1 and Grave Encounters 2 into like this Grave Encounters universe of our equivalent of Blair Witch Project. Mm-hmm. They tried to turn it into that, which it's nowhere near as good.
No. Not even close. That makes me feel nasty just saying these
comparing it
movies in the same sentence.
Oh, by the way, did I mention that they have to finish the film? The building wants them to finish the film. Finish the film.
It wants them to finish the film so they can have more people to torture. It's like the first movie, it was almost like a sadness to it because it's like it's evil. These spirits are trapped there from this like satanic Dr. Friedkin, which they just threw his plot completely out the window.
He shows up,
but now it's
and he sacrifices a baby, but that's it.
It's just like it feels like his whole point was just like gone. But
so, okay, this movie explains a little bit about the lore, but I feel like it completely does away with the mystery, because in the first movie, like we were just talking about with our first review, we were trying to figure out what is the catalyst, what's the trigger effect, and that was a fun conversation. However, in this one, I guess it's just time related. I guess if you're in here past a certain time,
like it, I guess,
or like this building is all knowing and is like, oh well, I'm done. Here's the switch. You can't get out. I don't know. It felt like a cop out.
It just wants them to finish the film, so it's like we had to reel this one dude in to. It's like we specifically wanted. With the first one, it was like genuinely scary because it's like just these ghost hunters, and they get way more than they bargained for just going to explore this abandoned, like, haunted.
And in this one, there's movie students that have proof that this, or confirmation at least, that this really happened.
Yeah.
And they're like, I want to go see what this building's got to say.
Yeah, they just get an email and they're like, oh, we're going to go meet this. I mean, I get the fact that he wants to make this a movie for himself because he wants to be the next big thing director. It's so dumb, but
I have a headache just talking about it.
It really is. This is a drag just to review, to be honest. It was a drag to watch. I really hate this movie.
This is hands down. So far, I know we got a lot of terrible horror movies to cover in our future.
I already told them that there are way worse movies out there than this. Like, I know some really bad movies out there.
And we will get to them all. For better or for worse.
There's a lot of good with the bad, so
yeah,
gotta just take it as it goes. Like we said, we like the first one a lot.
Now, without further ado, let's get into our scoring of Grave Encounters 2.
Ugh.
So, our first category in our scoring is story. Zombie Cat, what do you give it in terms of story?
I almost wanted to give it a 3 just because I like the idea of, like, they were trying to play with, like, meta stuff, like, with the movie within a movie and referring to, like, Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity. That's fun, but it's just so bad and so poorly executed. I gave it a 2. It's so bad.
I gave it a 3, just because I thought that, the story itself was below mediocre. It was absolutely bad. I want you to know that 5 for us is absolute average.
Yeah.
So I was originally going to give it a 4, but I feel like a 4 is too generous, so it's getting a 3 from me. So you gave it a 2, I gave it a 3, which gives us an average of 2.5 for story. Now moving on, we have characters. Now this is the one I have an opinion on. Do you want me to start it, or do you want to start it?
I'll go first since you got more to say on it. I gave the characters a 2. Absolutely awful. It could be a 1, but I know there's worse characters from movies that I've seen, but this is pretty freaking atrocious. When we say, like, literally the first 36 minutes of this movie is frat boys and annoying characters just talking about how drunk they are, how much weed they're smoking. Like, every cut is someone hitting a bong or hitting a blunt and drinking a bottle of tequila, or talking about, oh, we posted this on the internet. It's got so many It's so annoying. The characters are atrocious, so, too.
I also just want to say, for a 2011 film, this is so bad. There were so many good horror movies coming out at this time. Like 2011, 2012.
We were getting into like some of the decent stuff, like, or good stuff even. Like, when did Insidious come out even?
I'm pretty sure that came out in 2012, 2013.
So yeah, like, we were getting around like the Conjuring period. We were getting around Insidious, Sinister. So we were getting like...
This is just a disgrace to that time period and paranormal horror. Anyway, characters for me, I also gave it a 2. There is nothing relatable, likable, lovable about these characters. Alex is the only character that is remotely fleshed out besides Lance because of the first movie, but even he just has no saving grace. It's just he's an annoying character. I totally disliked it. You gave it a 2 for character. I gave it a 2, which gives us an average of 2 for characters. That's bad.
I really was not joking when I said, like, the throwaway Friday the 13th characters are way better than this.
Because at least they served a purpose. They were intentionally bad.
And there's at least always the final girl who, like, most of the time you're still, like, rooting for the final girl.
Yeah, and the rest of the time you're cheering for the killer. That's why everybody loves slashers. Or at least we do. Next, we have Antagonist. It's the same Antagonist from the first movie, so...
Just handled way worse.
Yeah, handled way worse. I think my first original score, I gave Antagonist a 5, because it was totally average. I gave it a 4 for this movie. They kind of dumbed the whole thing down. The mystery was completely ruined. So it's like the sentient force. Didn't like that, so I gave it a 4. It's not the worst Antagonist I've ever seen, but, I mean... It's one of the few things that actually has a decent score for me. And by decent, it's below average.
And decent's generous.
Yeah.
And for me, I gave it a 3. So, literally just, it's the same thing, but just worse. They dumbed it down and made it stupid, like, oh, the building wants them to finish the film to bring in more victims, where at first it was so mysterious. It was like Dr. Friedkin did all these like hidden satanic experiments, and like what causes the asylum to turn into this time warp and stuff like that. It was like there's so many questions like your brain runs with. So
also the time warp wasn't even a big like focal point of this movie like it was in the first one.
Yeah, it's just kind of, it's like just an inconvenience. They're like, oh, we're running, oh, the wall's closed. In the first one, like, it built up and it just slowly was like, there were moments they were like, huh,
there was a door here.
Yeah,
and it was like, a big deal.
We're just lost. Well, you know,
yeah.
It's like, yeah.
So you gave it a 3 for Antagonist. I gave it a 4, which gives us an average of 3.5 for Antagonist. Now, moving on to humor, which I feel like was the saving grace. Like, the main thing that we both gave a high score of the first one. It was absolutely hilarious in the best way possible. Now, that was a great thing about the first one that I felt was absolutely ruined with this one. I think it tried to have funny moments, but it totally failed.
It's horrendous because I feel like this is just going to fall back onto the characters.
And that for that same reason, I didn't give it a 2 like I did for characters, but I gave it a 4 because it's such a fall from grace that it's disappointing in terms of humor.
That's more generous than me. I gave it a 1. I don't
think 1 for humor?
They're not funny at all to me. Like, it's just, like I said, it's literally just hello fellow kids humor. Like, y'all relate to us drinking and smoking weed and hot girls, right? Like, that's it. That's the humor. Like, I can't think of anything that... What I was laughing at throughout the movie, it was like bad laughs. It was like, there wasn't even like enjoyable, like bad humor. It was all just like,
You know what? I was too generous. I'm going to give it a 3.
That's fair. Like, the bad kind of I mean, I guess the stupid CGI fart was
That was just dumb funny and for no reason. So
what just to go back on that once again, how we were mentioning useless equipment, this is just a quick run back. They talk about this thermal camera. They literally use it for a fart joke, and then they take it down into the tunnels, and it's what they use to see Lance. That's it. Yep. That's literally all we get out of that.
So you gave it a 1 for humor. I changed my score to a 3, which gives us an average of 2. Thank you, D-Mac.
You're welcome.
So 2 for humor. Now we move on to scariness. I think that this movie wasn't scary. I mean, I didn't think the first one was scary, but at least like there was an atmospheric horror going on.
Yeah, it's still like, I think it could scare the right person. You know, right. If you're like really sensitive to horror, like I think there's some people that probably think it's terrifying, but especially like if it's your first time watching it, say you're like alone at 2 a.m. or something, you might get some good like startles out of it. But
I will say, like, the jump scares in this movie, because of the higher quality, like, they seemed scarier, but they just weren't. Yeah, so I gave it the same scare score I gave Grave Encounters 1. I gave it a 2 for scare because it's not scary. It's just not. I'm not going to say it's the worst in terms of scariness that I've ever seen, but, like, because at least, like, some of the horror elements are there, and there are some, like, interesting scares, and the CGI helps, and like, you know, the effects help in some
like
cases.
We said, some of the ghosts are kind of cool, and then
there's that scene where Tess is walking back down the hallway and all the doors swing open. That was cool. I like that. So I gave it a 2 for scariness.
I gave it the same thing. I don't really have much to add on that. Like 2, just
straight 2.
Not scary. Not.
So you gave it a 2. I gave it a 2. Gives us an average of 2. So 2 for scariness. The last and the least. Experience. Our opinion of the movie as a whole.
3. I hate this movie. I'm never watching it again. This is surprisingly my 3rd time watching this movie.
This was my first time, and I'm really disappointed. Now, me being the person that I am and you being the person that you are, we've both said that if this ever went to like Apple and was able to be purchased digitally, we would buy it because we're collectors and we have a problem. And this is definitely evidence that we need help.
In the arms of the angel.
Like, when I like to collect stuff, it's just because it's like, I like to have the set, you know what I mean? It's just like, this is my last time ever watching this movie. I don't think I ever need to watch it again. I watched it the first time because I loved the first movie. I was like, oh, okay. Then I watched it a few weeks ago, and I was like, oh, that's pretty awful. And then today I had to rewatch it again just because you hadn't seen it. So
I won't say I'll never watch it again because I know better.
I mean, I just can't think of a scenario. It's not even like you're drunk with your buddies or something and you're like, let's watch a really bad scary movie. You can't enjoy this. This isn't like...
That's like Zombievers territory.
Yeah, it's like Sharknado or freaking... Even something... Which you can get enjoyment out of this either way, but like Killer Clowns even. Like, that's a fun, just like, buddy movie.
Yeah.
I love that movie, though.
And we will be reviewing that at some point.
I freaking love Killer Clowns.
Well, all right, guys. That was our review for Grave Encounters 2. I think you should go watch it. Suffer with us. Do it.
Also,
I dare you.
Like we said, just you might have a completely different opinion. You might think it's the greatest scary movie ever, but...
And you know what? If you have that opinion, just because we don't agree with you doesn't mean you're wrong.
And we have that opinion on a lot of movies, to be honest. So in the future, we're going to have some controversial takes. Like, there's plenty of horror movies that are despised that me and him love. So that's eventually going to be a thing.
Watch it. Make your opinion for yourself. But please watch the first one first.
Oh, yeah. Watch. Of course.
And then,
2 won't make any sense either way if you didn't.
That is true.
it is also time for our game of Guess the Rotten Tomatoes score. We'll have to come up with a better name for it than that. Alright, so my prediction, critics gave this a 9.
A 9?
A 9. And I would say audience, maybe a little more generous, 18.
Okay. I think for critics, I think they gave it a 32. And I think audience gave it a 17.
Okay, so the critic score for this movie, 17%.
Oh, no.
So
Wait, there's still one more.
pretty bad. And then the audience score for this movie was 27%.
So he was closer by 1 point on audience.
So I got 1 point for this week.
And then I said 32 for critics, and you said a 9.
Yeah, I knew there was no way in hell
And
critics could give this over.
Critics gave it what? A 17.
Yeah, 17.
So he was closer. I suck at this game. I always get flip-flopped. All right, be sure to hit that like button. Make a comment of anything you want to say about the video. Maybe you watched the movie and you want to agree with us or disagree with us. Just have those conversations down below. We will be responding, hopefully. We also have a Patreon. Please, if you feel the want or need to support us and help this channel grow in terms of equipment and the like, just go ahead and we'll put a link down in the description and right here on
Once
the video.
Again, always, all funds from Patreon go right back into the channel. None of that goes into our pockets. We are 3 full-time workers, so we, it's just a huge help to the channel. We have to take just a day out of the week out of our busy schedule to make these videos, so
Yeah, and if that ever changes where we're actually profiting the money and we already have the equipment we need, we will be sure to let our audience know. We will not keep you in the dark about it.
that'll hit a point too to where we'll offer even better benefits. So right now, if you just want to support, you'll have your name put in at the end. So
Also, be sure to follow us over on Instagram at the Horror Den channel just to stay up to date on the stuff we're doing behind the scenes and the like. Before we go, D-Mac, what did you think of the movie?
Oh man. So I'm not the horror movie connoisseur like Zombie Cat or Skull. So I haven't really seen that many horror movies. Like I've seen a good handful, I'd say, but of the ones that I have seen, I would definitely say this is the worst. There's just really no redeeming qualities about it, and I think that there was potential, especially after the first one. I think that they really could have gone somewhere
with that much money too.
Yeah.
$1.4 million, but compared to 120,000. I'm choking on my spit. It's got me so worked up.
I think they really could have gone somewhere, but it's one of those things. It seems pretty apparent after watching it that the production company that made this just wanted to churn out something very basic, something very generic, just to basically fill their pockets as quick as possible.
And they did.
Yeah.
$8 million in revenue.
How there's not a
movie.
third one, we don't know.
Yeah, I would imagine that would have made like a third immediately off of that profit.
But it's just very, very low effort, and like I said already, there's just really no redeeming qualities about it. So
Would you say it's the worst horror movie
So
you've
far,
ever seen?
yes. I mean, I know that there's worse ones out there that have a reputation of being terrible.
I have seen those movies that are worse.
So for right now, this has my lowest rewatchability that I've ever had out of a horror movie, and that's so sad for me. But thank you for giving your opinion, D-Mac. Thank you all for watching our video and giving us some support. Feel free to check out any of our links and give us some love on this channel, and we will continue to grow and continue to put out more content. In the meantime, stay spooky out there.
Let's go watch a good horror movie.
Sounds good.